$2.7 billion. That is how much frozen French fries Canada exported in the recent years. 91% of those exports went to the United States. Let that number sink in. When you order fries at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, or any other fast food chain across America, there is a better than 9 in 10 chance those fries came from Canadian potatoes processed in Canadian facilities. Not a significant portion, not a helpful supplement, the overwhelming majority, and now that supply is under threat. Not because of crop failures or natural disasters, but because Trump's tariff chaos has forced Canadian potato processors to make a calculation. Is the American market stable enough to bet their business on anymore? This is the story of how a vegetable most Americans never think about became the latest casualty in Trump's trade war. How the frozen French fry supply chain that feeds hundreds of millions of Americans is now being reconsidered by Canadian companies. And how fast food chains are quietly realizing they built their entire business model on a supply relationship that Trump just destabilized. But before we dive into this incredible story, if you appreciate in-depth analysis like this, hit that like button and subscribe to stay informed on the stories that truly matter. Tonight, we are showing you the real numbers behind Canadian potato exports, why American fast food cannot function without them, and what happens when the fries that define American dining are suddenly at risk. According to Agriculture and Agri-Food, Canada's official Potato Market Information Review, Canada is a net exporter of potato products, and the United States is by far the most important market. In 2023 to 2024, Canada exported $3.7 billion worth of total potato products. Of that total, $2.7 billion was specifically frozen French fries. Where did those fries go? 91%, $2.4 billion worth went to the United States. That represents the single largest bilateral food trade relationship most Americans have never heard of, but depend on daily. Break that down further, and the numbers become even more striking. Canada also exported $50 million in seed potatoes. 96% went to the United States. $493 million in fresh potatoes, 93% went to the United States. The pattern is consistent across every category. Canada produces and America buys. But the flow is not just one direction. The United States also imports potato products from Canada to the tune of $456 million annually. 85% of total United States potato imports come from Canada. Of that amount, $440 million is processed potatoes, including $126 million specifically for frozen French fries. Here is what those numbers mean in practical terms. The United States potato industry and Canadian potato industry are not separate entities competing against each other. They are deeply integrated parts of a single North American supply chain where Canada specializes in certain varieties and processing while the United States focuses on others. And Trump is about to blow up that integration with tariffs. Canada produced 5.8 million metric tons of potatoes in 2024. That production is distributed across the country, 34% in Atlantic Canada, 19% in Central Canada, and 48% in the Prairie provinces, primarily Alberta and Manitoba. Those Prairie provinces matter enormously for frozen potato products. Alberta accounts for 24% of total Canadian potato production. Manitoba contributes 21%. Prince Edward Island adds 20%. New Brunswick provides 13%. Quebec, another 12%, Ontario, 7%. But here is the critical detail. Approximately 69% of total Canadian potato production in 2024 was destined for the processing sector, meaning frozen fries, chips, and other processed products. Only 20% went to the fresh table market, 11% for seed. The main French fry processing provinces by volume are Alberta, Manitoba, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. These regions have massive processing facilities operated by 3 companies, McCain Foods, Simplot, and Cavendish Farms.